I'm finally at peace. I'm laying here on my carpet, and I finally have all the resources I need to get my thoughts out. I could just cry because there's so many things, and it's been so much work and so much confusion and so much pain, and the layers upon layers upon layers of everything are so fucking overwhelming. I feel like my brain and everything is on fire and just vibrating. I don't even know where to start, but I think I'm going to put my coat on and my shoes and just walk and talk, and gosh knows how long that's going to be, but I just need to get this out. Okay, laying back down on my carpet again because fuck it. First of all, even me getting to this point where I'm able to just speak is insane, because I've been so filled with this voice of hate and unworthiness or undeserving for so long, and doing anything for myself, investing in myself enough to even be aware that I'm taking time to do this, to fucking record this thing, is insane to me. I just didn't have anything. I didn't have, forget self-love or self-care. I didn't have a sense of self-preservation. I was just gone. My identity was just so so lost. So it was about a year and a half ago when I was diagnosed with ADHD, and before I continue, I have to make sure that these files are going to be recorded and uploaded because it's too important to me. Okay, one sec. Okay, so here we go. I just checked everything and it's all gonna upload, and holy fuck, I have come so far in regards to just figuring out how to fucking do technology, and just climbing that wall is just insane. So basically what I want to talk to you guys about today is just my issues with ADHD and orthorexia and OCD, and what's been going on with my brain and my body, and how fucking terrifying and angry and just completely overwhelmed I feel, because I was just diagnosed about a year and a half ago. And yeah, I know life goes on and nothing is different, but really everything is fucking different. And I feel like it's a combination of somebody either losing a loved one, and they look around and everyone is acting the exact same as they always did, and but your world has completely changed. Or it's you've been in a cult for so long, and then all of a sudden you're just out. As I'm speaking, I feel the back of my brain, the back of my neck by my skull, it just feels it's kind of, it's pulsing, and it's just so fucking weird, you guys. And it's been doing this for a while. I'm not sure how far back to go. I feel like I should put my shoes on and get ready to go, though. But basically, it's let's go back just 6 months. I had a hemicolectomy, and before that oh my god, there's just so many layers, you guys. It's just so hard. It's so hard. I can take a break. Okay, so we're finally free! Fuck, I'm so happy. I'm so excited. I just feel so... I'm so grateful. I'm so blessed, and I'm just like, and it sucks because I've been saying like, I feel so lucky, but I've never really felt like lucky, even though I knew that I was lucky, and that just made me feel even guiltier and even more disgusting and even more horrible about myself. But it's just like, I'm so lucky, and I feel it. I actually let myself feel it now because I'm taking the stuff that I need to take for me in order for me to just like meet my basic fucking needs. Okay, so this is gonna be the most schmuzzled up fucking recording craziness ever, but let's just start and try, and because I've just, the thoughts have just been circulating. So honestly, this is just mostly just for me to just get some sort of clarity of something. Because it's just all of these, oh my God, like there's just everything. It's just, oh God, I could just puke. There's so many connections. I'm sorry. Okay, so let's start off with the ADHD diagnosis. When I first got that I don't even know. It was a little over a year ago. I kind of disregarded it because by the time that diagnosis had come along, I was already so filled with kind of this pretty much OCD. Like, I need to do more research on it in order to nail down really what it is. But I almost want to kind of call it pure O at that point, because I was just... Basically, I was not allowed to... I kind of created this, like, reality for myself where I wasn't allowed to not question something. Like, I'm not really sure if that's... Yeah, so for instance, I'm not allowed to... Oh, I don't know, it just got so bad. Like, and I think it all stemmed from, like, a place of orthorexia, to be honest, because it was always like I've always had this innate deep desire to do what's right, and to do what's good, and but if it's like, but oh my goodness, the best example that I just thought of is the character Chidi from The Good Place, and he's always just like, what is the best thing? What is the most right thing? What is the most ethical thing? And you drive yourself crazy. And it's like, it's one thing if you're, you're trying to be a good person, but like, imagine, so take that and then attach it to, like, body dysmorphia stuff and, like, trying to keep yourself healthy and, like, obsession with health and orthorexia. So I understand how it all kind of links together like that. And this is a perfect example of the ADHD stuff, is I'm walking around and I'm sleep deprived and I'm super fucking triggered and all this shit. So, but anyway, I'm gonna look back on this podcast. I'm so gloriously over the moon to have this recording device, and I'm just so happy to be able to feel the guilt and still just do it, because like that has been the biggest thing ever, is it's just like feeling the emotion and doing it anyway. Like, everybody fucking knows that. I just feel like ADHD is, for me anyway, it's just like all the same shit that everybody else deals with, but just like times about a bajillion. And then all of the barriers of being chaotic in the brain, of like things just going so fast and you being so interested and so curious about everything and wanting to learn everything. And then also needing to know that wanting to know everything and wanting to make it the most like efficient as possible, or just to have the best, like, most accurate, most current information as possible. And like, I don't know. It's anyway. To get back to the orthorexia thing. Okay, so I don't even know how to start this. This is insane. Okay, let's maybe tell a story. It's hard because I feel like I'm so overwhelmed with all of these dots in my brain that are connecting that I just can't get it all out. So I have to just kind of focus on like one arena of my life, I suppose. So let's talk about like early childhood and I guess kind of beliefs and stuff like that that were instilled in me then and early memories. So if I look back at around the age of 5, I remember the feeling of social rejection, and I remember the feeling of always liking somebody more than they liked me. Always. Like that was just the way it was. And so then you kind of build up this and I should just quickly mention like the wall thing. So I'm going to be using that metaphor a lot. So basically, whenever there's like a task, and I want to use kind of these big main examples for myself, which is anything to do with exercise, anything to do with food, and anything to do with social interactions. So when it comes to the social interactions thing, which is what we'll do with the young child example, because that was before I was really controlled by anything to do with body dysmorphia or anything like that. So the social rejection, everybody understands, like that is so incredibly painful, and that desire to belong goes so deep. And I think when I was a kid, like learning over and over and over again that I was weird and I was different and like I'm disgusting and I'm gross and nobody likes me and all these lies, like, and that's the sad thing, and that's what I think makes me so just voraciously angry, is that there was this tiny part of me, like deep down, that knew that I was okay just the way I was. Like, I really was. I actually, if anything, I thought I was like pretty awesome. Like, I thought I was pretty cool. Like, I was really good, and I had so much to offer the world, and I was funny, and I was intelligent, and there's a part of me that's so mad at myself for looking at myself and just telling myself, like, you're ugly and you're disgusting and all this shit, because, like, I told myself those lies because I wanted to keep myself safe, because I wanted to, I like, in my mind, I was like, I had created this perception that, okay, you're so broken and so ugly and so horrible and so disgusting and you're just so garbage worthless. If you try, and you try really fucking hard, and you push, and you push, and you push, and you be as close to perfect as you possibly can, and you never take anything for yourself, you never get anything for yourself, you push, and you push, and you give, 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 and you never, ever, even for a second, take anything for yourself, then you might, just maybe, you might not be a burden on the world. So basically, and I remember this now as I'm like kind of connecting the dots and doing the research, there's that natural biological response that occurs when, you do something good, you accomplish a task, and there's that natural, like a sense of accomplishment. I drove that out of myself. Like, I just eradicated it, because that's taking something for you, right? And so you can see how, so for instance, if I have, first of all, you have like, with the social interactions thing, when you have ADHD and the rejection thing is so heightened, that's one brick or whatever, as the metaphor goes, that's one brick. And then the experience of being rejected in the past, and you're super duper ultra sensitive, so any tiny little semblance of what you think or perceive to be a rejection is just so freaking painful and over the top and just ridiculously oversensitive, and it's kind of hilarious. Like, when I'm speaking from my logical brain, like, now I can see how ridiculously sensitive I am. It's fucking ridiculous, but that's just the way it is. So, God, I'm so fucking happy I have this recording device. Like, oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I just feel like my life is fucking beginning. I could just scream. Anyway, one sec. There's people. I gotta be somewhat chill. Anyway, okay, so, fuck yeah. I love my life. I'm so grateful. Okay, so we were talking about little kid Sophia shutting herself down, building these bricks up against, against, like, what was it? Rejection. Okay, so maybe I'll loop back to that because, like, that's another thing, guys, is my short-term memory is completely fucked because of shit that I've done to myself over the past, like, year or so. I didn't realize this as well, but, like, with PTSD, like, your short-term memory goes to hell, basically, like, or, like, your memory in general just gets super fucked. Like, all of the obsessive thinking that apparently is another symptom of ADHD, and of course we know that with eating disorders and orthorexia and all that shit, like, you're obsessively thinking the same bullshit over and fucking over. So all of those, nice little neural pathways are just like freaking solid cement tunnels, and everything else kind of gets laid to the side. Oh, the social anxiety stuff came. Okay, so I'm going to come back to that. But anyways, okay, so getting back to being social, you have the perception, okay, that I'm disgusting, I'm a failure, so all of those bricks are being built up. And then there's kind of like, the way the metaphor goes is that you build up all of these bricks, and it's like there's only a few ways to get around this wall. So you can't get around it because, and the guy was like, and it's my metaphor, so I can say if you can't get around it, you can't get around it. And that's true. Like, think about life, like, you have to have social interactions, or, but, the thing is like, the task can apply to anything, right? Like I said, I'm going to apply it to social connection, I'm going to apply it to food, I'm going to apply it to exercise. So, in regards to social connection, in this day and age, there's some sort of, it's a thing. You can't get around it. Anyway, you can either use there, and then you can just kind of passively not do anything about it. So you can procrastinate, you can just kind of stare at it, you can shut down, you can numb. So basically the freeze response, which was my next kind of go-to. Anyway, but I'll go through all of them. And then there's the like the Hulk smash, and you just like smash through the wall, so that's the fight response. And then there's the inward smash, and you kind of, and that's the one I definitely use the most. I suppose that's the flight response. And then there's the last one, which is what I feel like I've been training myself to do without even realizing it these past couple of months, which is climbing the wall. And it's so cool. Like, this just okay, I'm just going to go off on another tangent, but it's just like, it's amazing when I finally just gave myself a tiny shred of grace and decided to stop questioning everything, because I had this crazy OCD. I had to question abso-fucking-lutely everything. I had no peace. Every single thought was just like you have like one, they say you have like what, 70,000 thoughts a day? Like, it was like quin fucking tipple that, I don't know, and then until I passed out. So just like, Jesus Christ. Anyway, meanwhile, I'm like severely underweight, severely under eating. My digestion is a goddamn mess. I just had a fucking hemicolectomy. Like, I'm gonna look back on this, and dude, holy fucking shit, I just realized, like, through all of this, I'm still fucking working. God, fucking fuck. This is insane. Okay, let's continue. So, you have social interactions,
And what happened for me, I think, because I do remember being very reactive as a young child. I would swear a lot. I would get really angry. We had a swear chair, and I was in the swear chair a lot. And my dad, I don't want to get into too much of the shit of my family because it's not me. I only want to talk about me. But I also just want to preserve their own privacy. But we're just going to say it was, by the time I came along, it was a very toxic situation. That's all that really needs to be said. It was a very toxic situation, and 100% there was childhood trauma that's unresolved and will continue to be unresolved for a long ass time, and that's okay. It actually is okay. Oh my fucking god. See, that's the thing, is it's like, you know how people are like, you're allowed to be like you can be okay with not being okay? Like, that is so true now, and you have no idea what kind of peace that brings. Like, oh my god, I just feel human. Anyway. Okay, so social interactions. So it was very much like punch through the wall, explode outwards. And I felt horrendous. Like, 'cause you can see that hurts the people around you. You can see that. And same thing with my mom. Like, I felt horrible. I felt so horrible. I just felt so guilty and so awful and so disgusting and just horrible. And she was like, so she was not in a good place either, right? And then when you're a little, and this is the thing, this is what pissed me off so much, is because I thought this was my whole issue. I didn't really pay any attention to ADHD stuff because I was like, no, I was just traumatized when I was a kid because I saw my mom, who was kind of in this victim place, and if your parent is really, really upset, and they're really, really upset, and as a kid, you don't necessarily know what's going on, then, like, you end up telling yourself that it's your fault. Like, this is pretty basic childhood trauma 101 bullshit. So I figured I just had a bunch of unresolved trauma, PTSD, and all this stuff, and that's what led to my eating disorder. But anyway, let's get back to, so there's the punching outwards. So I saw the effect that had around me, and of course it's incredibly heightened because of all the ADHD stuff. And then we move on to the next, we move when I'm a little kid, and this is kind of when I remember starting to shut down, because one, like, I thought I was pretty cool. I thought I was pretty cool, and everybody else, basically the way they reacted to me was, wow, you're disgusting and weird and gross and different and weird and just fucking weird and gross. And I just didn't, my clothes were weird. We didn't grow up with TV or music or anything like that. Like, I didn't know. And when I went over to my friends' houses, like, I found music and everything. I found it really cool, but it was so, like, I just got so sucked in because it was such a novelty. Like, and also, I know this sounds weird, but there was a lot of shame about any sort of distractions growing up. I felt so, like, kind of frustrated, and I just get it because there's nothing to distract, and it's like you kind of need that distraction in order to focus. And I think that and I need to be in charge of how I regulate it. And it's like I don't know, and I just feel like my natural personality also, like, I just need, like, a lot of stimuli. Like, I constantly need to be learning or fiddling or something. And I'm learning, like, especially now with, like, just kind of meditation and sitting with my emotions and all that kind of stuff. Like, I'm understanding so much of this it's just like, calming the senses and calming the nerves and anyway, but again, that comes back to, giving yourself the patience and the grace to take care of yourself in the way that you think that you possibly even could potentially hypothesize is correct. But I didn't allow myself that, right? Because I questioned everything. And I was like, if you can't prove it, then I'm not going to do it, right? Because that's how my brain worked. That's how I had changed my brain. That's how I had kind of created this little structure for me to believe in. It's like, if you cannot prove it, scientific fact, then I'm not going to do it. So if you can't, and which is ridiculous because my brain, I don't know, it doesn't actually, when you start to logic it out, it doesn't actually make sense, but that's what irrational beliefs are. Like, they are irrational beliefs. Anyway, but yeah, and I think it was also, honestly, it just stems from such a huge place of fear. Because, like, if you're, like, I'm just thinking back on, like, oh my God, this is going to be so crazy. Look back on. There's just so many loops, you guys? There's just so many loops. Okay, so I don't know. I'm going to let go of that one for now. But, so if I am, as a kid, and I'm functioning and I've stopped punching outwards because I can see the kind of pain that it causes, so I start to punch inwards, or shut myself down. It was more of the shutting myself down, because I remember when I was about 10, 11, 12, I kind of, it was, I was about 10, 11, 12. That's when I saw myself. I just figured it was kind of like, looking back on it, I thought it was maybe like some depression or something like that. Because, I don't know, maybe hormones or something. But yeah, and then around the age of, I think from 13 to about 16, there was, like, cutting. From what I remember, it was mostly around the age of 14. And I just remember, like, it was after arguments with my mom. Like, I would just feel so... Yeah, like, the only thing that would bring any sort of peace is just... Yeah, like, any sort of... Because I couldn't kill, like, I didn't want to die. Like, I didn't want to face that, but I didn't want to die. I just wanted to feel like I could do, like, I didn't know how to repair it. I didn't know how to get the guilt out of what I had done, which, looking back on it, I just had to argue with my mom because I'm a sassy little fucking teenager. Like, that's just it. But it was just so overwhelming, so I just, yeah. So that's just... barely the beginning of anything is just, I'm gonna take a break for now. Alright, so took a little break. Thank goodness that I am learning how to just zone out and listen to music again, because I don't know, but I feel like I explained this to my mom, and it was like, I feel like someone's inside my head just like whitewashing the walls, or like when you see outside of like restaurants and stuff, and there's somebody like cleaning the sidewalk with that really like high-powered hose. Holy fuck, that's how it feels inside my brain. And it's just clearing those, what feels like eons of just obsessive thinking. And it's like, here, one sec, trying to get my phone in my pocket. There we go. And it's like, I don't know. I wish I could, I'm really hoping I'm going to keep on making these, YouTube videos and podcasts. I know I will. And connect with like-minded individuals who understand what it feels like to have this crazy OCD stuff. So I think that's a really actually perfect jumping off point for, okay, we've got construction, so now we gotta get out of this person's way. Let's see if we can get around with this. There is no getting around. There's only climbing, right? Anyway, so, obsessive thinking. This is a perfect jumping off point into, let's do the eating disorder stuff. So, that kind of came about, I'd say about the age of 14, I remember feeling, that goes alongside with, sorry, I just checked the recording device and I'm just like, I'm so used to that fear response. It doesn't even, it's such old bullshit. No, because it's such irrational fear. And it's like, I have to keep reminding myself that that's like old shit, but it doesn't feel old. It's still, it's, you can't control it, right? Like you can't control your body's fear response. All you can do is slowly train it to understand that it's safe, and then you feel like you're being chased by a lion, but you're actually not. Over and over. Okay. So, obsessive thinking and the eating disorder stuff. From a very young age, we've already got these perfectionistic tendencies. Oh, right. Ever since the age of 3, 5, somewhere in there, I forgot to mention I also have OCD tics. And these little tics are things that they would make me feel better. They would make me feel like something is, it just made it better. It just made it right. Just made it okay. Made me, I didn't really see, that's the thing, is when you're so young and innocent, you have these things, but you don't question it too much, and then as you get older, that's when all the judgments come, and that's when the tics are just like, what the fuck is that? And then you try to assess it and quantify it, qualify it, blah, 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 blah. So, and that's what's really cool now, is that with this diagnosis and actually getting healthy and all this stuff, I'm finally able to not just forgive the feelings, but forgive myself. I don't know, there's just so many layers. I'm not going to be able to get it all out, obviously. There's just so many layers. But with the obsessive thinking and the desire for things to be okay, it's like I wasn't okay unless my body was a certain way. And so, this is kind of what pissed me off is it's like, okay, so I just have really terrible trauma and, then a lot of shame, and then social anxiety, and then a lot of shame, and that led to, down the road, we'll talk about orthorexia, and it's just like, that's it, but it's this, and so it just sucks because I've been trying to treat all of these things, and it hasn't really been fixing anything, but now I'm starting to treat the ADHD and I'm like, oh my god, and it's like, it's ridiculous because it finally just got to the point where I was just like, I just said fuck it to the hate that I felt towards myself and the guilt and the everything, and it's like, oh my god, it's ADHD, and I like I said before, everybody has their demons, everybody has their own version of this. I just feel like ADHD is just a huge, it's a very, the more research I do, the more I'm like, dude, I gotta fucking cut myself a break, because this is a very legit, thing that fucks your brain up and fucks the way up. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's, basically, you're walking around with a broken leg, and then all of a sudden you put the leg in a cast, you're learning these tools to work with the ADHD or whatever. Then your leg starts to heal, and you can almost kind of sort of walk again, and it's like, oh, sick, bro. So yeah. Anyway, my life is a mess. My brain is a fucking mess, and everything's fine. Everything's fine. It is. Everything is totally okay, but it's also just blowing everything. Yeah, it's just insane. Okay, so la-di-da-di-da, we were talking about eating issues. Okay, body dysmorphia stuff. I'd say, when did that start? Around 8, yeah. I guess like 10 or so, because of all the social anxiety I felt around other kids. I would just come home and I remember like eating out of boredom. I also remember, I think I naturally I'm a little bit I think it's hypoglycemic. Your blood sugar naturally just kind of drops. So great, another thing to heighten and that's another thing that I was like, oh, I'm just, all of these issues that I have, it's just because I have low blood sugar because I'm not eating anything. So that's the thing, is it's like, I just blame myself because it's like, oh, you only feel this way because you're not eating, and you're not eating because if you eat, you're going to get fat. And if you get fat, well, you're already so fucked up and ugly and disgusting and horrible and awful, you should just kill yourself. If you eat anything, it's just going to make it even worse. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's my life in summation right there. I created a reality for myself where I was very, very trapped. And then anytime I tried to do anything, gave myself permission to do anything that I think might make it feel better, I can't, right? Because you think it might make you feel better. You can't prove it. So I was so there was nothing, you guys. There was absolutely nothing. There was not even barely a shred of identity left. So when the psychiatrist diagnosed me, I know I'm repeating myself now, but it's just I don't give a fuck. I'm so done caring about anything at this point. Anyway, when the psychiatrist diagnosed me, this is why I didn't address this, because I was just I was still in this place of blaming myself for all of this. Just it's just crazy. Sorry, I just still keep having this feeling in my body of oh my god, what if this gets deleted? I was literally, when they say with obsessive or intrusive thoughts or whatever, where it's so I was walking across this dock and it was oh my god, what if I just threw the recording device in the water? And it's it doesn't fucking matter. I'm still me. All of this, it's not I'm still me. What? I've been talking now for 30, 40 minutes? Jesus Christ. All of this is still, it doesn't, the other thing that would make that hard is because it's now that I have this recorded, it's really nice to be able to just have this real raw. Oh god, see, this is what I mean. It's I can't help the ego, but this is human. You gotta kind of have this sort of shit for yourself. But anyway, it's interesting to have these fears and intrusive thoughts and kind of obsessive ways of thinking of just everything is okay, but you fixate on the one thing that could possibly go wrong. And it's literally, it would just mean me being patient enough to sit down with myself and record all of this shit over again, which I'm going to have to do anyway, because I'm going to have to process it all and blah, 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 blah. Because right now we're just in crazy trigger manic mode, which I'm learning about more and more, and we're just talking. And I logically understand all these words, and I'm a cohesive, logical person, but I know that I'm super duper triggered, and I know that, anyway, whatever. God, I'm sorry, it just keeps on hitting me, and I know, it's I can see it so clearly now, it's hilarious, I can see it so clearly, jumping back and forth between it's excitement, and it's manic, and it's fear, and it's all of it, and I see all of it now. It's so insane, and it's just oh my god, obsessing over what if this happens, and then thinking about something that excites me, and it's oh my god, I'm so happy I have this recording device, oh my god, I could just, and it's just and you guys, now that I know what's going on, I feel like a fucking superhero because I can react to it however I want. And that was the thing, is I didn't feel like I had that power before at all, because I was just, one, I was so bewildered, and two, I was also taught, like, I think I'm bipolar and like schizophrenia and all that kind of stuff like that runs in our family. And so I think I don't necessarily know, I don't know. I'm not going to diagnose any more bullshit because I don't think I have any of that stuff. I honestly just think I have the ADHD thing and a lot, and I'm just a very excitable person naturally. But it's just shocking to me. And like, you know, and all of those emotions are so addictive, right? Like anger is so addictive. Excitement is so addictive. Adrenaline is really fucking addictive. So, and if your brain just gets used to just like running on those systems, and it's just like, all the time, and it feels so good, oh my God. And then there's the crash, you know, and it's just like, but now, yeah, I don't know. I keep trying to talk about the eating stuff, but for me, I feel like I need to go on to the orthorexia thing. But anyway, so I will. Because it's the manic. That's what I'm dealing with these days. I got to the point where I was so manic, I was just compulsively exercising all the time because it was the only way I could handle anything. Because when you feel like you're going to explode and your skin is just going to fly off, and we're still kind of functioning from that place of self-hate and breaking myself down. So yeah, like there was nothing at that point. There was nothing to stop me. And that's when I think I really, really, really traumatized myself. And I was really just functioning like all the time from a place of fight or flight. Because if you think about what that does to you mentally, where you're like, you can never eat little enough, and you can never exercise enough, and you'll never be enough. Like, just, that is the epitome of terror, because terror is like, you don't have a choice in the matter. And so, of course, that's when the compulsions, because I already had those tics, I already had the obsessive thinking, I already had this lack of patience and for myself, like lack of patience, lack of love, lack of forgiveness, lack of trust, lack of everything, and it just heightened everything to the point, and that's why I think I had my hemicolectomies, because I was just, and also my nutrition was shit, so I guess we need to go back to the food thing. But I had developed like such weird OCD stuff about bowel movements as well, and this is embarrassing to fucking talk about, you guys, because it, and it still affects me now, but it's a combination of nutritional stuff, and I'm so happy I'm doing this recording now, because this research needs to fucking be done, because I'm a personal trainer and I know emotions play such a massive role in your digestion. It's just absolutely bonkers. Like the amount of cases I've seen over and over and over and over again of people just like, I don't know, it's just shocking. But basically, like, with the eating issues, so when I was about a teenager, and sorry, I'm like going up a heavy hill, but I just don't give a fuck about anything anymore. I don't care. As a teenager, it was like the social anxiety stuff, because, and I started saying this to myself a couple weeks ago, which is like, your insides don't match your outsides. So just because you feel like, I felt like I was okay. I felt like, I wasn't great, but I was okay. And then I just kept getting more and more shut down by like, these feelings just being invalidated by the world. And I never really learned that, like, dude, you gotta validate your own feelings, that's kind of part of life, is you just kind of, people are going to think whatever they're going to think, and you gotta kind of figure out what works for you. Well, you can't figure out what works for you if you don't let yourself try and fail because you're too terrified and you can't fucking prove anything. You guys, I just totally royally fucked myself. Anyway, well, I did and I didn't, but anyway, but I did. Well, anyway, doesn't matter. You know what? I'm 20. That's what I keep saying is like, and that's what I get like super overwhelmed. Is because it's like trying to ground yourself into reality. Like, you are 25. No matter what the diagnosis, you've still made the choices that you have made, and recovery and all that kind of stuff is in your control. Well, you're still, no matter what, you're still accountable for your actions, and you're still responsible for your reactions. I made a little piece of art or whatever that looks like that. Okay, I'm sorry. I know I'm going on so many tangents and so many loops. I'm sorry. Okay. So I'm going to take a little break and then we'll come back. So the eating stuff, I said I was going to relate it to like the wall. I think it makes pretty good sense to me. So it's like, as a teenager, I developed, like with ADHD and binge eating disorder, they are super duper, the comorbidity of those two is like, yeah, really high. Sorry, I don't know the terminology. It's super duper common for people with ADHD and ADD to have binge eating disorders. Like that's pretty, yeah. Anyway, so coming home from school, feeling really sad, shut down. I stopped playing sports at that point. I had kind of, my little act of rebellion was, I don't really feel like eating all these stupid hippie foods that my mom was always trying to shove down our throats. I want to try Ichiban. And so I just remember, because we had always eaten so flipping healthy all my life, and I'm so grateful for that. But I just remember, like, I just want to eat what I want to eat. So that was my little act of rebellion. And I remember for lunch, I started eating like cream cheese bagels and frozen egg rolls and chicken flavored Ichiban. It was good. But I think I did a bunch of things. So naturally, I have a very addictive personality, and it created a lot of like nutritional deficiencies, I think. And it just reinforced, it's just reinforcing a habit of you come home, you don't do anything except for you don't play sports, you stop kind of going outside, you stopped like writing. And I stopped doing all these things because they didn't feel good anymore. And I just got more and more negative feedback from all of them because like people thought people just weren't very nice, and nobody really seemed to be interested in the same kind of stuff that I was. And I was just like curious about everything. I wanted to learn everything. And then if I tried to speak up, I was like shut down. If I tried to speak like and express myself, sometimes I would express it like in anger or frustration, and that was not received well. So I just shut down. So anyway, and then, of course, there's so much piled up anger because I was like, Mom, why didn't you remember? And I would always but I never really didn't really want to go there because I just feel like I basically just did this thing to myself where Mom was the victim and I didn't want to be the perpetrator. I refused to be the perpetrator. So I just shut myself down so I was less than the victim, and that's when the self-harm started. And I always thought that was kind of like the eating disorder, but I think that's just, now I'm realizing, I think, wow, holy fuck, I'm just like realizing this. I think that's just, emotional regulation is a very important thing, you guys. Wow. So, being able to regulate your emotions is my next task for, the next 2.5 decades of my life, because I spent the first 2.5 decades of my life controlling my body, so let's learn mind control. Anyway, but actually it is kind of true, and I was thinking about that with like, yes, I know I'm going off on yet another tangent, but whatever, with the medicine wheel, and how, not just the medicine wheel, but with so many religions and traditions, and I don't know, there's like, you start in the East, and there's kind of, you're learning, there's start in the East, and there's spring, and there's birth, and it's this kind of, it's very like body focused, and so I do think that's interesting. I feel like I've learned so much about the body and how it works, and the effects that trauma has on it, and I've done so much research and time like has been spent on people, like helping people fix their recruitment patterns, and yeah, it's mind-boggling to me. So anyway, this next little bit we're going to be looking at mental health. This podcast, like, I know how terrible it is. Like, I know how bad it is. I just don't care, though. I finally just get, this is, you guys, like, finally you get to peek into my brain. This is what my brain is like pretty much all the fucking time. I'm learning to make it a little bit more cohesive. Like, the first little bit of this podcast, I think, is kind of sort of better. But this one, I know, like, I'm just so happy to I finally feel free in my mind. I feel free to express and safe to express. That's the other thing, is it's like, I was so terrified of hurting my mom for so many years that I just really, really, really shut myself down. And and with family and certain people in general, I just really, because I had this belief that I was just, such a fucking terrible, horrible, disgusting human, that if I really, truly expressed myself, I would, I'd really hurt someone. And that's kind of what led into, you have to give, and 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 you never, ever, 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 don't you even dare for a fucking second take anything for yourself. And it's because I'd always kind of be like, try to look on the bright side. You're a very productive human being. Everything you do has a purpose, blah, 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 blah. And it really ties into that sort of Western-minded mentality of, like, everything has a purpose. And anyway, so if you've got all these, like, eating issues, and you spend all your time just, like, exercising and stuff, you don't really have a lot of spare time to just, like, be with yourself. So, and if you have this belief that everything has to have a purpose, but you don't really believe that you're worthy of investing in, like, why would you spend time with yourself, So it's like, I'm just kind of sorting all of this out now, but I'll get back to, I was talking about ADHD and binge eating disorders. Okay, so the coming home from school, eating crap food, playing on the computer, all of those things, like, those are going to exacerbate anyone's mental health issues, for sure. Like, if you've got depression, that's going to make it worse. If you've got, body image issues, that's definitely going to make it worse. So, I'd say around the age of 14, I started, my body, I had gained a little bit of weight, but my friend actually taught me how to ride a bike. Oh, hey, there's another little key piece. Like, every tiny I always just kind of thought this was the PTSD. I wasn't really sure. But any tiny, tiny little bit of trauma that you get, it just is way, way, way over the top, right? Like, most people kind of have a better, they're on a little bit more of an even keel. But I think, I'm just a little bit more trigger happy. And so something like, crashing your bike when you're a little kid, instead of getting back on and learning to ride again, you just become like, every time you try to do that, you become more and more terrified. Like, it works the opposite way. And that's what has been so hard for me in recovery, is like, so much of me, like, and food and stuff like that, and challenge, because it's like so. And I still feel this way, actually. I still feel this way. But speaking with a lot of girls, because I haven't met any guys who have eating disorders, and this is why I think I have a hard time with the whole eating issues, because I don't really feel like I have an eating disorder. I have ADHD and compulsive exercise disorder. I don't really think I have an eating disorder, but I don't know. Maybe that, yeah, I don't know. But it's like, they'd avoid certain situations because they knew that was a trigger. And I always was just like, I'd never say this to them, because like, in my mind, like, and I genuinely think this, like, well, if that makes them feel better, like, they gotta do that, like, they gotta take care of themselves, that's really important. But for myself, I'm like, well, I'm not gonna fucking not do that thing, that's stupid. I just need to buck the fuck up and grow the fuck up and be brave and just fucking do it anyway. So I had no kind of like healthy sense of self-preservation or boundaries for myself, which is, I think, what made the exercise, that's what traumatized me so bad, is because, yeah, and like, I keep saying that over and over again. I'm sorry, I'm never gonna complete this point. And the point was the binge eating and the ADHD, they're so intrinsically linked. And then, yes, developing nutritional deficiencies, kind of increasing that habit, feeding into the addictive personality that I have. I didn't really have any other addictions. I just got addicted to that ritual. And then if you eat those same foods over and over again, you're kind of, nutritional deficiencies. And then eating disorder is only going to make that worse, because, if you're trying to lose weight, and I got very, very, very underweight. I was, well, it was the second time in my life. But anyway, the first time that happened, I think the lowest I ever got was 102, it was almost 100 pounds, and I'm 5'8". So that's, that's pretty low. That's pretty low. And it's so funny, because I was just like, people would look at me and they'd still, like, because I was really muscular. I am very muscular, because I've competed in bodybuilding competitions, and I like lift weights, and I like being muscular and all this stuff. And so I just think it's funny, because people would look at me, and because you have muscle, like, you look healthy, like healthier, like, I don't know, whatever. It's all relative, right, you guys? It's all relative. But yeah, you do. You look healthier. You look like you got something to you, gives you shape. But I don't know, it's really hard, because and luckily now I have this I have these boundaries, like, that's what I've been talking about, and that's why it was so toxic before, is that's the issue with, like, eating disorders and exercise disorders and all this stuff, is this, like, and this is where all addictions kind of come in, there's this sense of, there's a sense of unease, like, you're not able to sit with your emotions, and, so there's that escapism. But more than that, there's, like, this sense of not being enough, and being afraid of never being enough, and just so kind of just needing to escape that. And so, like, in regards to recovery and just like very concrete sort of numbers, something that's really helping, and this is also helping with all of the doubt and all of the fear and all of the anger and all the everything, because it's like, all my life I just thought, okay, so you have really bad PTSD, and you have body image issues, and that's it, and the rest of it is just like, well, you're a dumb ass cunt for feeling that way, you just need to grow the fuck up and get the fuck over it, and what the fuck is wrong with you? You probably just need to shove some food in your face and you'll feel better. And it's like, no. Because, and that's fine, and we've gone through this. But it's like, that's what's shocking to me is like with mental health issues, if you're treating the wrong stuff, it doesn't get you anywhere. And so that's why I'm shocked, is because like that is kind of what I thought. I just thought that was it, and I just thought I was broken. Like, I really thought I was broken, but it's like, you're not broken, you just have ADHD. And it's just like shocking to me how the more I treat the ADHD, everything else just seems to vaporize. Like, there's this, and that's what it is it's like, the more I treat the ADHD, the more that there's this sense of enough. And I think it's just kind of this deep forgiveness for myself that's allowing myself to like learn these really crucial things, like patience and forgiveness and disappointment and managing your fears and just genuinely being okay with not being okay. I just feel so much safer with myself than I used to. Like, I had, and this comes back to the compulsive stuff, but also all of the restriction from the foods and everything. It's because, like, and also I think, like, with my mom and, like, taking myself, and I had to be less than the victim and shutting myself down, just, like, everything. Like, I did not feel safe with myself. Like, it's terrifying. And I think that's the OCD and everything, and the compulsions is it's like, you get to this point where you're so, and that's where I was before my hemicolectomy, is I just felt so unsafe with myself. Like, when I'm out and about in the world, everything is fine. Out and about in the world, everything's fine. When I come home and it's time to rest, I can't. And your brain just gets, like, do you know what it's like to not be able to take a bite of your egg without doing like 50 burpees? And then another bite, and like, it just goes on and on and on and on. And like, do you know what it's like to not be able to get into bed until you've done, until you've spun in a circle, until you've done this weird stretch, until you've gone pee about 5 bajillion times, because everything, like, there's just so many, like, the OCD tics just got so bad, and it's like layers upon layers upon layers upon layers of resentment, and like, why am I like this? Why? Yeah. So, I don't know, and then that kind of from there developed into, like, sensory motor OCD, which is just like, well, you can Google it, but it's really fucking bad. It sucks ass, you guys. Sensory motor OCD or hyper-awareness OCD, and again, I was just like, well, it's just like body image stuff, I just need to calm down, and blah, blah. And it's like, oh my god! No, but anyway. So I guess I'm just going to talk about, like, for me, what's helping is keeping my body consistent and keeping my mind flexible and training my focus. So with the body consistency, keeping the workouts to, we're going for like an hour, pretty much, an hour, 5 days a week, which feels great. I have my workout plan all done up for me, and it's just like, it's enough. And there's that, that old, like, oh my god, but it's enough. Like you can, like, I have all of the statistics and all of the information and all of the everything, because I've been tracking and consistent, which is so hard for someone with ADHD to do. But yeah, for long enough to be like, okay, this is what I need to do in order to keep my body in this weight range, which for me is enough. And then same thing with the food, same thing with the sleep, same thing with the bowel movements. Sorry, you guys. But it's just like, and I really also feel like when my diet changed, I have to do a whole nother thing on this, but fat has literally saved my life. Because fat has enabled me to have like it just cuts down on how much time you spend prepping your food. It cuts down on how much time you spend eating your food. Because it's like, okay, so just imagine it like this. All right, your next meal, you have to eat 1,200 calories. Do you know how many how much volume of food you need to eat if all of those calories are made up of protein and carbs? Do you know how much time it takes to prep all of that and then consume all of that and then shit all of that out? No fucking wonder my digestion was so fucked. And then all of those sources came from, for a long, long time, there was artificial sweeteners in there. There was way too much, chicken breast and protein powder, and and then raw vegetables. It was just like that forever. And the thing is with my gut health, your gut, I didn't eat anything else. And a cocoa powder. And everybody in my family can attest to that. Anyway, but that's genuinely what I wanted to eat. And to this day, that is still what I will naturally fall back into and naturally what I am drawn to. But, and then this kind of ties back into the binge eating thing, is it's I became afraid of my appetite, because it's not necessarily that it was one, if you start to binge or you just get used, it's not even that you start to, because I never really had a binging disorder, I guess. I did, but they always define binging disorders as, you consume your food very, very fast, and you really, really overconsume, and you compulsively consume. I always felt no, I haven't eaten all day. I have, I was basically, I don't know, but it's okay, so I come home, I haven't really eaten very much all day. I have about, between 2,000 and 2,500 calories that I need to consume in order to meet my quota or whatever. Maybe I was in a cutting phase, so maybe it was 1,800 calories and I had 400 calories for breakfast or something like that. But I needed to eat about that much. And then I would just kind of eat intuitively within that. So there was some, there was a little bit of chicken, there was some beef, there was some vegetables. I'm kind of thinking about how I ate in university. There was some eggs every now and then, but it just wasn't enough, you guys, and it just builds up over time. And if you live your life not really having anything all day except for maybe a protein shake, and then you come home and you're sweet, I get to fucking eat everything. That kind of just pretty much controls your life, and then you don't really have anything else. And, you still kind of feel like shit about yourself because you feel like you're working really hard and you still hate yourself and you still hate what you see in the mirror. And anyway, so now it's kind of, and I got used to the feeling of being really super duper duper full, right? And you think that is full. It wasn't until I started hanging out with my mom and eating how she ate, which is just awesome, amazing, gorgeous, wonderful, hippy dippy food, that I remembered, oh yeah, you can be satiated and not feel full doesn't mean a bloated, disgusting mess, basically, is what I'm saying. So, yeah, that's obviously that plus reducing the anxiety has really, really helped. Sorry, I'm just 1 second. That realization and that feeling, I don't know. It's very freeing. Because I would eat to the point that, your gut feels like an absolute bowling ball. You can't really move. And that's just kind of I don't know, you learn to kind of almost associate that with safety. And I guess I was afraid that I was always going to have to kind of organize my life around feeling like that and feeling the shame of sitting with that. Because anytime I wasn't feeling like that, I was hungry, and I was always just felt like I was riding on the cusp of hunger. which leads to, so like I said, so riding on the cusp of hunger. And so that brings you a lot of fear, because you're always like, you're living in this constant anticipation of threat. And most people, you're like, well, like, I know I'm going to get hungry at some point, but what's the big fucking deal? I'll just eat. Well, it's a big fucking deal if you're afraid to eat, because you're afraid of your body changing, because you've attached all of these like really deep down core beliefs and like your value of existence is completely placed upon your body. And it wasn't even like my body was like, I really thought my body was all that great, or that I was even that pretty or anything like that. It was literally just, I am allowed to exist wow, I just remember that now. Holy shit. It's just like, I am allowed to exist if I am trying my absolute fucking hardest. That's what I remember. That's kind of some of the what I thought was the equivalent of peace back in university, was I was like, I'm never going to like my body, but if I am always trying my absolute fucking hardest, if I am always giving 125%, then I'm allowed to give myself a little bit of peace. Yeah, I remember that. I'm probably going to look back on this moment right now the same way I'm looking back on that. It's fucking crazy. There's so much shit that I've forgotten. It's just insane, you guys. It's nuts. I love it. And it's really hard to deal with. But so with the food and like the whole wall metaphor that I was going to use, I think it's like, okay, so say, like, imagine food is, you're fucking afraid of it, you're terrified of it, but you're anticipating, like, your hunger, you're anticipating that you have that need to eat, so you're living in fight or flight mode all the time because you're afraid of the hunger coming. You're afraid, you're afraid of the hunger coming. Imagine that. And so then, there's the ways that you approach the hunger. The hunger is the wall. And so for me, most of the time, it was, well, we're going to procrastinate. We're going to push off the meal and push off the meal and push off the meal. And that also led to more compulsions and more tics and more... because if you're hungry and you're not letting that's the biggest thing. Is it's like, it's one thing to be hungry and to like have to deal with a situation where you're like, okay, well, you're busy, like, you're hungry and you're in a lineup, so yeah, you're a little bit antsy, but you have the confidence, like, you're gonna go to your car and you're gonna crack open that bag of chips and you're gonna put some in your face and then you're gonna get home and you're gonna make food. Like, who fucking cares? But so you're antsy, and like, that's the end of it. Right? If you don't trust yourself to feed yourself, the feeling of hunger is terrifying. Accent on terror, because you feel like you don't have a fucking choice. And it's like, okay, well, I can't really eat until I get home, until I have it prepared like this, and it's done like this, and it's this food group, and it's blah, 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 blah. And this is where, like, I get really pissed off at, like, myself and Charlotte. I'm sorry, but I'm really angry at my sister right now, and it makes me sad because she's been the one to support me and love me unconditionally for so long. And I just, well, it's my own fault for feeling these emotions towards her, because like I idolized her, right? I completely idolized her, and she knows all this stuff. She knows. She's like, well, you just need to let go of control. You just need to let go of control. And it's like, that's what pissed me off so much. Is it's like, I have been, right? You guys, like, when you let go of control and you're in this safe place for long enough and you allow yourself to start eating intuitively, and it's like there's still something broken and wrong inside of you, and the person is just telling you, well, you just need to eat more. You just need to eat more. You just need to eat all the time, and that will fix everything. It's like, no, that's not the fucking issue. That's not the fucking issue. It makes me so angry. It makes me so angry. But anyway, that will be resolved in due time. But that's, it also motivates me to just keep myself really consistent and healthy with the body, because if I have any sort of doubts at all whatsoever that it's not ADHD, I can be like, fucking see, look at all this shit that I'm doing. Look at all this glorious enoughitude that I'm just embracing with my exercise and my diet and my body and everything. I am enough. And, God, it feels so good to just let myself shamelessly experience emotions and not question them. Like, there's shame. There's still embarrassment and shame. And, well, not shame. There's embarrassment, But there's, which is good, normal, healthy, social thing. Anyway, but there is forgiveness of self and validation of the emotion, which just, it's completely different. Whole new world, guys. So last 2 ways of approaching food and climbing that wall of food, my ridiculous brain. Okay, so you have the food, and I would generally, push off the meal, which just increases the fear and just increases the terror and the anxiety and the not feeling like you don't have a choice and blah, blah, blah. And then there's the Hulk smash, let's just go through the food, blah, blah, blah. And I guess that would be some people's, like, binge eating response, but for me, that's, that was, like, compulsive exercise. And then shut down. So you kind of, like, burpee, stop, breathe, and then kind of like block off all of your thoughts. And it was that's the thing, it's because it's like you have to kind of block all of your, like, so and it's pretty, and I didn't question it. And it's just like, I was just numbed out. Like, I just kind of was like, oh yeah, it's me time or whatever. And yeah, I do agree, watching TV and eating, watching YouTube and eating food is like can be pretty awesome. But there's gotta be a balance with everything. And I just kind of started to link the two. I think since such a young age, I was very, very into TV. And I remember, like, somebody asking me, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I was like, I want to make movies. And it's like, okay, awesome. But, so I don't know, I was just very sucked in by TV, and I still find it kind of fascinating, but I also really hate looking at my phone. So anyway, so there's the Hulk smash, and then there's the Hulk smash inward, which, well, that makes sense with food. Like, I think I like that just kind of comes back more and more to restriction and being like, and then also forming fears around certain foods, because you're like, well, I can't have that one because that one's going to do this to my body and that one's going to do that to my body and blah, 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 blah. And it's, it's just really hard. But I just feel like everything's getting clearer, Alrighty, so I left off saying I felt like things were getting a little bit clearer, and they do feel clearer, and it's just me talking about all of this stuff, and it feels so much better. It's just amazing what can happen when you start to finally invest in yourself, and it's hard, and it's scary, but all those voices of guilt and fear, that I honestly, like, I had created a sort of psychosis for myself that it was just like, I don't know, I just remember thinking, like, well, I'm such a terrible human being, like, I'm so selfish and awful, like, anytime I looked up at the moon and I just, like, took a breath and was like, oh my god, it's so beautiful, and you just, like, pause, and then you go into that, like, and I would go into that, and I'd take a breath and I would pause, and I'd feel so guilty because my thoughts were so like, oh my god, you've been so wrapped up in yourself, and then I'd be paralyzed. I'd be looking at the moon and I'd be paralyzed, and I'd be, like, stuck in that moment of feeling like I I owed it something, like I owed spirit something, I owed the earth something, I owed the moon something, I desperately had to give back somehow, and I just felt so guilty, where I'm realizing, like, you're supposed to just be like, wow, and appreciate it, and then move on, but I couldn't, right? Like, I couldn't take anything for me. I wasn't allowed to take anything from me. Like, I even had a dream about going outside and, like, cutting myself open and, like, bleeding into the ground and, like, screaming, like, is this enough? Like, because I was just like, oh my god, that sunset is so beautiful. Like, I'm sorry, I know I shouldn't laugh, but whatever, it's just me. I'm not gonna kill myself, but I'm just like, it's just me. It's just me and my thoughts and my dreams and my life, and it's just me. Fuck. But that's what I mean. Like, I literally couldn't fucking take anything for myself. And so now when I just, like, go about my day and I, like, you know, brush my hair and put my shoes on and whatever, like, being grateful for all of that is awesome, but it's now I do, but it's really overwhelming and hard to feel grateful when you're in this constant mode of resistance and resisting because you don't feel worthy. You don't feel worthy of having a bed with nice clean sheets. You don't feel worthy of having a warm coat. You don't feel worthy of having brushed hair or brushed teeth or any of it. But there's this, at a certain point, you have to just kind of accept what is, because I feel like that's a disgrace otherwise. Like, that's the word I kind of kept coming back to me, was a disgrace, because it's like grace in my mind is kind of like it's this combination of, like, peace and acceptance and gratitude, and pushing that away is a disgrace, right? So, and I knew, like, and this is kind of how I reasoned it out, because this is how my brain works. This is, like, logically, if you accept and allow these pieces into your life, they do build you as a person, and that's good. And then you can give back to others. But I always had this fear that I was building a monster, right? That I was just like, I don't want to take too much for me, because if I take too much for me, then I'm just going to be, and I think that was just being afraid of the anger that you get with this emotional dysregulation with the ADHD stuff. So it's just a combination of understanding triggers, understanding my tendencies toward mania, understanding and living within boundaries, understanding my addictive nature, understanding my compulsive nature, there's so many layers, you guys. There's so many layers. And there's still, there's still this obsessive thinking. There's still, like, I feel really good right now, but in, like, an hour, who knows how I'm going to feel, right? But that's the other thing, is I don't feel afraid, because I've gotten so used to, I don't know. It's like, what is that song? It's that, it's a song by Simon and Garfunkel. Hello, fear, my old friend. Anyway, but yeah, you just kind of, I'm not trying to say, like, I sound like a, but you just get used to it. You just get used to just being like, oh, that's fear. Huh. And then, but it's really hard, and some days you're just much more reactive than others. But, yeah, I don't know. It's really intense. But it's nice to just kind of be humble and calm back down again and be like, life's Rachel. So, I don't know what I know I talked about the wall and climbing the wall with social interactions, and I talked about the wall and climbing the wall with, food. Yeah. So I think next time I'll come back on here and I'll talk about climbing the wall with exercise. But yeah, I think we'll just leave it there. I just think it's so funny because, like, to finish that thought is, it's like, okay, so we're kind of learning to not resist so much. And that seems to be the biggest thing out of everything, is it's like, don't resist your thoughts. Don't, and with the ADHD stuff, like, I feel so guilty for my mind going a million miles an hour. And sometimes like that's what I need to do, is I just need to not think ahead too much and completely just think in the moment. And if you have a racing mind, you got a fucking racing mind, because I would try to okay, calm your thoughts, and that would just make you feel more panicked, right? So it doesn't matter. It's literally, it's not like any specific strategy other than just completely and 100% throwing your arms up, throwing those metaphorical, metaphysical, whatever, arms up into the air and just being like, okay! And I think within that, that's the ultimate, being okay with not being okay, and then that softens everything and that makes it okay, right? You have these, and you can exist within these boundaries. And then the boundaries can they're still there, but they can kind of expand and de-rigidify. And I think, honestly, that is the flexible mindset thing, right? And I don't know, that's the other cool thing that I thought was it's these past few weeks, or not even these past few weeks, the guys, that's what I mean, is so fucking insane. When I look back, my brain is changing so exponentially fast these days. It's just bonkers. But looking back these past couple of days, I was just so exhausted, and I don't know why, but I gave myself a little bit of grace to just be I can't keep doing this. This doesn't work. I can't work like this. I can't. I was so overwhelmed. On so many levels. So it literally was just listening to this really nice orchestral music and just walking, just focusing on breath and the music, and just I explained, clearing out, and it makes sense. I just wish I had, and I guess that's why I'm so scared of losing this recording, is I don't have anyone to validate these feelings but me, because there's no scientific anything, right? You can use logic, and you can use reason, and you can use oh, she was this weight at this time, and she had this surgery at this time, and this psychiatrist said this thing at this time. So there is stuff there. But nobody knows, that's not what has value. What has value is, the feelings. Because that's all it is it's just, so many feelings, and they're so intense, and they happen so fast. And then they're gone. And then they're there again. And you're oh my God. It's honestly, I just feel, I said at the very beginning, it's just what everybody else has, but just super uber duper duper heightened. And now I'm able to just forgive myself for it. And kind of keep moving forward from there. So, super dramatic, but also not really, because that's life. Okay, thank you for listening. I love you, whomever this might be. Okay, bye.